Hello, everyone. Thanks for thanks for tuning in. My name is Caya. I'm one of the founders at Slidebean, and thanks for joining our session. So we're doing this on Zoom. So welcome to you, all of you guys who are on Zoom. So you probably signed up to Slidebean, and that's how you found out about this. So thanks for taking our product for a spin. For you guys on YouTube, maybe you probably haven't signed up for Slidebean yet, but not a bad opportunity to try it. So I've gotten better at multitasking. So I have the YouTube thing here, and I have the Zoom chat here in front of me. So I'll try to follow along. You have questions along the way. I want to talk to. I mean, today I'm doing it's like I want to say 25, 30 minutes worth of slides on how does the fundraising process work for founders. Uh, a struggle that I had to go through myself, and then a struggle that I've seen a lot of companies go through after we started this company. So let's just jump right in. Again, I'm sorry, 30 minutes on slides, and then really the remaining 30 minutes of the time I've scheduled is really for questions. So feel free to throw them in. For you guys on Zoom, you can maybe use the Q&A thing, and that way we can keep them sorted. And then for you guys on the chat, again, I'll try to keep up with your questions as much as I can. Okay, so let me see if I can arrange this. I'm gonna start sharing. That's okay. So you should see my screen now. Yes. Okay. So, like I said, my name is Kaya. A lot of people will think that my name is Slidebean, but it's not. I am just one of the founders of the company. Slidebean is a company, and it's not just a YouTube channel. Most of what we do actually is we help founders navigate fundraising. Um, and then through all these many years, it's like 12, 13 years since we started the company. The My conclusion is that raising money sucks. I hear from someone like, why don't I delegate it, or raising money is fun. I actually hate raising money. I'll get to why in a sec. But I don't think you can delegate this, honestly, man. Like, I think this is very much a CEO's job, and I think that, investors don't really respond to somebody who's not the CEO trying to pitch them. But again, we'll get to that. Okay. So funding. Why do startups raise funding? I think you hear a lot of talk about it. We talk a lot about it in our channel. If you read TechCrunch, you're gonna see half of the news are like this company raised some crazy $1 million amount of money. And I think that creates a lot of confusion. I think that it created a lot of confusion for me as to, like, what is raising money? Why, what convinces an investor to give you money? What, how does um, how does that evolve with time? Like, you see these rounds getting bigger, $1 billion rounds. Like, I remember that when I started my first company, there's this company called Yo that all it was this app, and all it did is just send Yos to people. You couldn't even text. It was just like Yo. And that app raised $1 million. I remember this. And it's like, okay, if Yo can raise $1 million, then our product, which is much cooler, like, should be able to raise a lot more. But again, most of the time, people don't understand the context of these rounds and why these founders have been able to raise so much money. A lot of times it's an experienced founder um, that has raised money before, that has a good network, that has good contacts. So that's kind of where that comes from. So funding. I think that the biggest context of that you want to understand is that funding is really just a means to an end. Um, it feels like we spend so much time preparing to pitching investors, dealing with the due diligence, dealing with all this stuff, that we tend to forget that the funding is just one step of the way. It's not the end goal. And the end goal for any company that tries to raise venture capital is very much one of these two outcomes. It's either selling the company or going public. Most of the time, selling the company. The few exceptions of companies that scale really fast, IPO. So, um, why not profit, right? Like, where did that get left behind? Like, what about making a company that actually makes money? Well, in startups, it doesn't necessarily work like that, or which is crazy to say. But with venture capital, profits are not very exciting, and I'm gonna tell you why. Let me walk you through this couple company scenarios. So let's imagine this company, right? maybe many of you are kind of fit this criteria. You guys are maybe looking for a $1 million funding round. That's you figured out that this is the money that you need to get your company to the next place, to build a product, to launch it, whatever. And you estimated you need $1 million. And how much of that, how much equity are you going to give to investors for $1 million? Well, maybe you've heard a few references before. You're really fond of this company. You don't want to give them control of the company, not even close to that. So what about 15%, right? Like that's not maybe not too crazy. Okay, let's say that you're trying to raise $1 million and I would try, and you're trying to convince somebody to take 15% of the company for $1 million. What does that mean? Okay, of course, investors are going to get 15% of the company. And let's assume that this company does really well, scales really fast, and you're going to, you're landing and getting somewhere in the $10 million in annual revenue. Okay, that's exciting, right? It's a huge company, $10 million. But what does that mean, right? What does that mean in terms of profit? Well, most companies at any scale operate on EBITDA margins, that's your earnings before income, before interest, taxes, of about 10%, right? So let's say that the company managed to get to something um, like $10 million and it makes 10% of that in profit, in pure profit, before taxes and after taxes, which is like 20% in the US, you end up at something like 800K in free open money. So, what does that mean for the investors? Well, if investors hold about 15% of the company, then what that means for them is that they're going to get something like 120K in profits, right? So is that really exciting? Because they invested $1 million. That means that even if this, I mean, in the best case scenario or in the great case scenario that this company did really well, these guys are ending up with just like how much does it take to pay back, right? We're looking at 9 years of payback to get back those $1 million that I invested. And that's kind of where this idea of profits starts to fall apart because is it really worth it to invest and to risk all this money to just get, to wait 9 years and then get that money back later. Okay. So let's look at another scenario. What if we do the other approach, like a more startup-y approach where profits are not as important for us as we thought. Okay, so let's try that. Let's go with scenario two. In scenario two, we're also raising $1 million in funding. We're also giving investors 15%, but the difference is we're now considering raising additional rounds of funding, right? We're now considering raising other rounds. We're getting other investors. We're not caring so much about profits. That means that maybe the first investors will get 15%, but then another round of investors will get another 25% of the company, and we'll start kind of eating away at the founder's share. Cause for concern. We'll get to that. Investors are going to get diluted, right? So they're no longer keeping the 15% that we had before, and that's getting shrunk. That's shrinking. But because this company isn't focused on profits, it's just focused on raising more money and growing really fast. Maybe this company gets to a much bigger revenue share, right? Maybe this company gets to $50 million in revenue because it's not caring about profits. It's just very risky, very aggressive, investing all of the money that they make back in dominance, right? Well, what happens with this company? It doesn't make profits, right? It's not paying profits to investors. Well, but what if a bigger company comes and acquires this business and buys it outright? A 5x revenue valuation is not a crazy valuation for a company in this world, right? Maybe they have a brand new type of technology. Maybe they're building something that's really exciting. They have some strategic value to the buyer, and that's why they're interested in buying this company. Okay, so 250 million gets paid to acquire this business. Maybe that happens 7 or 10 years after the company started. Basically, investors are still getting that 20%, but now they're getting $30 million in exchange for that. And that is much more exciting. That is a 30x return in 7 years compared to what they invested. And that is the business of venture capital. Venture capital is looking for, I mean, this is just our example, but a 30x or 10x return in a short number of years. Because building companies is very risky. So this is even riskier, right? This is a super risky approach to company building because you have to grow. You depend on future rounds of funding. You're not profitable. If you don't raise that round, you're probably out of business, right? So it demands super fast growth. Again, super fast growth usually is unprofitable, and that's fair, right? We're not striving for profits. We're striving for market domination to make ourselves attractive to a buyer or to IPO. A lot of companies IPO and they're not profitable when they IPO. We all know that story. Um, Amazon, I see Leo mentioning that. More investors needed in order to raise and to fund all this expansive, aggressive, dangerous growth. And the only way, again, the only way investors make that money back is with an exit or an IPO. But that is the game of venture capital and venture capital and startup investing. So when you hear a founder saying, "Hey, like I want to build this business as a, and I want to inherit it to my children. I want to run it forever. I don't want to sell my company. I'm very passionate about this. I don't want to sell my company." That's normally a big red flag of this is not a company that should be raising venture capital or pitching venture capital investors. There are other ways to raise money for those types of companies, but it's not venture capital, or at least not capital at, again, $1 million for 15%. The balance needs to be very different so that at some point maybe profits pay back the risk that the investors took. Okay. So we established that funding is just a means to an end. We established that the end is an exit or an IPO, but because we are doing this, it's very aggressive, it's very risky. We're going to have to go through multiple rounds of funding. Why? Well, in part because you can't raise, or you probably can't raise $100 million right off the bat, right? Like, who knows if it's going to work? It's too risky. It's too much money. So it's better to just raise a little bit of money, prove that this works, and then raise more money, and then prove that it works, and so on. So these rounds have started to have a really decent standardized naming convention. Pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B. You've probably all heard of these. And these rounds are kind of tied to some specific requirements. Again, this has evolved over time. So if you're reading an article about rounds of funding, and that article is over 5 years old, then the definition of these rounds is probably going to be very different from what I'm about to spew. But this is a live thing, so like this is, I think, the latest version of how we are defining rounds in this day and age. Okay, so let's talk about these. Now, a lot of people think that a seed round is a round that you would raise right after you launch, right? And you see this a lot. Founders start the company. They bootstrap, maybe they raise a little bit of money, they quit their day jobs, they work and finish a product, and they launch it. They have this app that's ready, and they put it in the market, and now they go to investors, right? Because the product made it to the app store, they've launched it, now they're looking for investors. But that's actually the shittiest possible time, or the shittiest possible position that you can be in to raise money. Why? Because a seed round is actually raised when you have about $30,000 in monthly revenue, at least for a SaaS company. I think for most companies, 20 to 30K means you've launched, means you understand a little bit of marketing, you understand a little bit of sales, you've been able to get customers use your product, like your product, the product exists. There is a bit of an interest in what you've built, right? It's proof that what you've built makes sense. And that is a great moment to go and talk to investors to raise a seed round. But what that means is that you want to launch earlier, right? Obviously, you've launched earlier so that you can get to 20K in revenue. And that means that the launch is actually somewhere between pre-seed and seed. And what you'll find through the next few slides is that trying to raise money when you're between rounds is actually a really bad position to be in, because you're neither one or the other. So you kind of have to pick, if you will, or you're going to have to approach investors under one premise or the other. But approaching them when you're in the middle tends to put you in a really, really bad position to raise that round. So let's go through a few other exercises. A Series A is a round that you would raise more or less when you have about $2 million in annual run rate. I have a good personal story about this. I'll tell you in a sec, because I have some traumas about that Series A. And by the way, this is all related to what I call a standard tech company. And to me, a standard tech company is a company that's building software product that you build within the span of 5 or 6 months, right? A few months. A software product, not a hardware product, definitely. not some big biotech company that needs years of R&D or years of development. That those companies fall into what I like to call like R&D tech startups or R&D tech companies, who are by all means tech companies, by all means startups, but not the standard usual story, right? Like I think that in my experience, only about 5% of the companies that I talk to fall within this category. Realistically, most of the companies I talk to are good old software tech companies that are building some software product that can launch easily, fast. Yeah, so that's mostly the type of company that I talk about. And those R&D tech companies have other milestones of their own, which I can talk a little bit about if anybody has any questions. But again, going back to the majority of you guys under this standard tech company filter, let's actually talk about what those milestones are and what those rounds are. First one, probably many of you guys are here. Actually, if you kind of fit the pre-seed criteria I'm about to tell you, just type in pre-seed, and that way I'll know, and I'll maybe stop and talk a little bit more about it. Same for the others, right? If you fit the seed criteria, just type in seed, and we'll I just kind of get a gauge of who's in the session. Okay, so pre-seed to seed. So, and again, we established that launch is somewhere in the middle. And what does a pre-seed company mean? Well, a pre-seed company is a company that has absolutely a fully formed team. So a team that has, to me, a fully formed team is a team that has the capacity to build everything that this company needs, right? So the talent or the knowledge to build it, right? So again, let's use the app example. You're building a new social media app. What do you need to build a social media app? You need some incredible marketing skills, because you're basically marketing a product to millions of people and trying to get them to sign up, some virality stuff. You need to build a product, right? So you need an app. You need an engineer to build it. You need probably some really good user experience design, right? Some great UI design, because there's a lot of competition. You're competing against the Instagrams of the world, the TikToks of the world, with the infinite swiping, amazing UI innovation. So you have to come up with something that's new and fresh, right? So that skill should probably be in-house. You need somebody that can raise money, right? Somebody who will fund this company, because as a social media platform, there's a good chance that you're not going to have revenue for a while, right? So you need somebody who can sell a company with no revenue and get more investors on board. What else? I think that's it. Like those are the 4 core skills that this hypothetical app company needs. Now, the important thing is you need that team in your founding team. You need that team in your cap table. You need that team in your pitch deck. You can't go to investors to raise money to try and recruit the missing team member, because that's not how it works. A fully formed team is very much a requirement to raise a pre-seed round. It's not the other way around. If you haven't been able to recruit that team, that tends to be a big red flag for investors too, because that means that you either don't know enough people, you don't have the network. The money that investors will give you at pre-seed, which is probably going to be a few $100,000, it's not enough to recruit a person that's an expert of user, of UI at another larger company. So you need people who have joined your company already because they believe in it, not because you have money, if that makes sense. So big requirement that hopefully doesn't make you lose your pre-seed status to a bunch of you guys that said you guys are pre-seed. That is very much a requirement. Founders with all the core skills and a plan or the strategy to get to your first 100 customers. And then pre-seed, you jump to seed, right? So the money that you raise in pre-seed, that's important. The money that you raise in pre-seed needs to be enough to get to seed, so you're not stuck in the middle, right? So it needs to be enough. So what's a seed round? So we said a seed round is a product that's launched generally 20, 30K in monthly revenue. Company growth, right? So momentum, about 10% in monthly growth. And I think a basic understanding of your metrics, what's working, what's not, because you're basically raising money to put more fuel to this fire. That's what I would call a seed company. Any seeds in the audience? Type it in if you are. Okay. Some big red flags or some warning signs. Like I said, raising money to recruit a founder. No idea of how you're going to get customers. I see a lot of pitch decks that for pre-seed that have everything about the product, but they haven't thought about the marketing, or they haven't thought about sales, or they haven't thought about how they're going to get customers to sign up. Remember, this pitch deck needs to, or this business plan that you have needs to work through seed. It may change, but those plans should be in place because you're trying to raise money to get to seed. And yeah, very big flag. You're raising money just to launch. I see Leo reclassified himself as a seed company. Good. Um, okay. So yeah, like important, like your budget only lasts through launch. That's a big red flag to investors. If you put in a pitch deck, hey, we're raising money to finish this product and launch it, that's not great, right? Because you're going to be stuck in the middle. Investors know it. Investors know you're going to be between a rock and a hard place trying to raise money between rounds. So always make sure that the money that you raise is enough to get to the next milestone. Okay, let's do another pass. Let's do a pass of seed to Series A. We already know what a seed company is, and we said that the Series A company, again, at least in this day and age, tends to be a company that has somewhere around $2 million in annual run rate. The reason I know this and I have this $2 million number engraved in my brain is because Slidebean ourselves, we got stuck here. We raised a seed round. We raised about $1 million, or we had raised about $1 million through our seed round between the pre-seed and the seed. And everybody told me, it's like when you raise your seed, you want to budget for about 18 months of runway. Okay, great. So that's what we did, right? So in our financial model, we did, okay, 18 months of runway. We're going to spend about 30, 40K a month. That means that our money is going to last. I mean, we're going to burn through 30 or 40K a month. That means our money's going to last for about 12 months. Sorry, 18 months. And then when we were about 12 months in, it's like, okay, I'm 6 months from running out of money. I'm going to go pitch my Series A investors. Again, I've just raised a seed. Now, next step is a Series A. So I went and started trying to get those meetings. I emailed a few investors, a few people that I knew, and every single one of them said something along the lines of, "Oh, well, how much revenue do you have?" Well, we're at about $1 million in annual run rate. Very exciting, 7 digits. Oh, well, that's great, but we're a Series A fund, and what we consider a Series A company is a company that has about 1.5 million in annual run rate, probably closer to 2. It's like, okay. And after I got like 10 of those types of replies, I'm like, well, I am in deep shit because I don't have enough money to get to double my revenue. I have 6 months of runway, now like 5. So what am I going to do? And that's truly the place where a lot of companies get stuck. Whenever you hear a company raising a post-seed round, they're a company in exactly that position. They miscalculated their seed. They ran out of money before they got to Series A, and they had to raise some bridge funding to just not go out of business and trying to get to Series A. And that's true. That means dilutions for the founders. It means post-seed rounds tend to be bad deals. Investors know that they have a lot of leverage to get a good valuation. And yeah, that's the story. We didn't actually raise, and we didn't end up raising a Series A. Luckily, we were close enough to profitability that we were able to kind of make that switch, but it was a really, really close call. We closed the by the time we finally hit profitability between around $1 million in ARR. We had we had like 30K in the bank. It was bad. And this was a huge operation at this point. 30K in the bank was cutting it a little too close. So red flags in this place. You've raised money for months of runway, not for reaching the next round. Product launched and no revenue. That's usually a deal breaker. That means you're not a seed company. You're still stuck between one or the other. You're still, I mean, not stuck, but transitioning, let's say, between one or the other. Okay, let's do one more. I've worked with a couple of, we used to have we still do a little bit of that, but we don't, not a lot. Like we used to focus a lot on kind of helping companies. Actually, I used to get involved in writing pitch decks for companies. So I wrote a couple of pitch decks for companies that were raising Series A and Series B rounds. And I learned a little bit about the hoops of, how those pitch decks look and how those rounds get framed. The reality is that Series A and Series B rounds are raised so much on metrics, right? What makes you raise that round is the fact that you have this perfect understanding of your company metrics. You know how many dollars you're pouring into this funnel and how many dollars are coming out, how many customers are coming out. And really, just like in seed, you're putting fuel to the fire, but now it's a lot of fuel, right? Now it's millions of dollars put into this funnel for conversion. So traits of product market fit are very much a requirement if you want to call yourself a Series A company. This fantastic understanding of metrics and early traits of delegation, right? Like at this point at Series A, you want to be looking at owners, right? Like a senior CMO persona or head of marketing persona or a senior head of sales that's really taking that away from the founders so that so that they can focus on broader company vision. When founders are still stuck in one of these areas at that stage, it tends to be a bit of a flag. And you're trying to raise, you're getting from Series A to Series B. Series B tends to be about 5 million in ARR. Early traits of an exit strategy, I think, are super key. Red flags, not enough revenue, or run out of money before the milestone. Or another one that I see a lot, or it's like just a bad understanding of metrics. I've talked to too many Series A companies that don't understand where their growth is coming from. They don't know, how many conversions they're getting from one campaign or the other, which again tends to be a bit of a flag. Okay, that's really all my slides. Right on the clock, right on the money. So I have time for a bunch of questions. So feel free to start typing those in. I have like half an hour to answer all your questions. And while you do that, a couple of commercials. One, this is our main channel. We're at 600K subscribers, but we started a new channel a new YouTube channel where we started to focus a lot on startup related topics, like deep startup dives into equity, into stuff like this that we've just gone through. We actually have a video on different rounds of funding. So if that's who you are, it sounds like it is, feel free to check that channel out. It's called Startup Club. I'm gonna have my team paste a couple of links there in the chats. Check it out, subscribe. And just as a little teaser commercial, not commercial, not neither of those, as a big added value, really. I'm doing another webinar in that channel tomorrow, same time tomorrow. And the idea for that session is a much bigger, deeper dive into budgeting those rounds, right? Into making sure that you don't run out of money between rounds. And the tool that you need for that is a financial model. So you're going to have free access to the financial model that we've built. We're actually going to build a financial model for one of the companies that tunes in. We tend to do that for one or two of the companies, depending on the complexity, as a way to prove to you that it's not really that complicated. It's just a matter of understanding your metrics and being able to use the tools available to your disposal. So really, really good session. Less time for questions. That's going to be like an hour session of us kind of digging into the model. So more like 50-minute session, 10-minute questions compared to today. So that's one commercial. The other one is a reminder, like we're not just a YouTube channel. What we really do for a living is help founders navigate fundraising. So Slidebean.com, our platform, has an AI pitch deck builder. It has a cap table tool. It has an investor finder tool with over 25,000 investors in our database. And it includes, in some of our subscriptions, monthly one-on-ones with my team. So our Accelerate plan, for example, includes a monthly session with our pitch deck team, a monthly session with our financials team, and a strategy kickoff call with me, as well as you get ready to pitch investors, you'll also get another one-on-one session with me to kind of go over the details, the strategy, the angle of the company, and so on. So you're in great hands with my team through the process, and I jump in at the beginning and the end to help you guys nail this stuff. If you want to sign up, you can use the QR code there. You can go to slidebean.com. If you use the code YouTube86, which is today's date, August 6th, you can get a 50% off on any of our plans. That's a daily coupon thing, so it doesn't work tomorrow. So just a today thing. Okay, thanks for paying attention. Let's jump to questions. So I'll stop sharing. And I see you, Alexis. So let me get you over here. We're building our MVP. What metrics exactly should I aim for if I intend to raise a pre-seed of 600K pounds? It's definitely the upper quartile. So what metrics? If you're working on your MVP, you don't really need metrics. You don't have metrics, and that's understood, right? So if this is a pre-seed round, I think the important, So if we establish that this is a pre-seed round, there's no expectation of metrics. The expectation is that you will just have the capacity, right? So you're basically raising money on the dream of what this company can become, and that's fair. So no, like I don't think that you need metrics. Understandably, an MVP could have some beta testers. which I normally don't tend to brag about too much on the pitch deck. That's just really a part of the development process. So I don't think that you need to, um, don't focus too much on beta testers and activity. It's understood that you're just, building an MVP through this process. I think it's much more, your success with this pitch, it relates much more to your team, to the fact that you have a strategy and a good idea of how you're going to get to seed metrics, right? So you have to think how you're going to get this product to 20K in revenue, and you should have a compelling answer for that. I mean, to be very honest, the answer may be wrong. Um, yeah, I think the answer may be wrong. Like our pitch deck had a really, really bad answer as to how we were going to get to 20K in MRR. And as soon as we found out, and investors bought it. I believed it. I generally did. Investors bought it, and then we found out that that was the wrong strategy, so we had to change it. And that's perfectly fine. Just show that there's a plan, right? There's a plan to reach the milestone that you're aiming for. Okay, so I want to make sure that okay, I see you guys. I'm gonna do one from YouTube, one from the Zoom webinar. By the way, for tomorrow's session, you want to be on the Zoom webinar if you want me to build a financial model based on your company. So make sure that you sign up for that. I'm gonna have I don't know if the team already pasted the link. But yeah, link to the Zoom thing is coming. Okay. I see you. I spoke. It's your email. Okay. Anyway, how to find a technical co-founder? That's a really good question. A common struggle with founders. Why? Because um, a lot of founders are non-technical. Like the typical person that starts a company is, is usually an extrovert, maybe an MBA, maybe somebody who's studied business, maybe who's someone who's had a good idea, and they don't tend to be product people. Like product people or engineers tend to be introverts. Not generalizing, I think it's a fact, hopefully. Tend to be introverts. Most engineers are risk averse, so they'd rather a good stable job. So the type of engineer that's willing to quit their day job, that's probably really well paid to go and start a company and risk everything is a particular type of engineer. Not that easy to find. Not one that you convince with money, one that you convince with a really exciting product idea. So, in my experience, I studied computer science for a year and I hated it. I know the basics of code, but I wouldn't say I can't code. Um, and so for my two companies, I've had to recruit two different tech co-founders. One of them was a good friend of mine from high school that I've known for many years, and the other one I actually found on the internet, and I recruited them. Who was Jose, one of our co-founders at Slidebean. So, I think the strategy there, or some tips, some strategies there. First, your network. Start with your network. I think I've started more and more. I start to believe that college is more useful for the network than for the education because you can learn anything anywhere if you set your mind to it. But you can't build a network if you're learning and stuck at home, right? Network is built getting drunk at bars and working together in projects and hating on your teachers, I think, your professors. And I think that college is really that's where I would start. I think the next, if college or work, right? So your current workplace or people that you've worked for, people that have seen you work, I think that's where I would start. Maybe that immediate network or the extended network that network gives you, i.e., introductions, warm intros, and the likes. I think another tip there is don't try and find a tech co-founder by pitching them your product. Try to find a tech co-founder by pitching them the problem that you've discovered, right? That's the way I did it for Slidebean. It's like, hey, I had some ideas about what Slidebean could be, how it could work, and how it could look. But if you go to an engineer and you tell him, hey, I have this product idea, I want you to build it for me, be my co-founder, I'll give you 2% of the company. That's an immediate no. Same pitch. Hey, I have this product idea, I want you to build it for me, I'm going to give you 40% of the company. Also probably a no. Why? Because engineers hate to be managed by people who don't understand product building. Most business people don't tend to be great at product. That's just what it is. And so I think engineers and product or tech co-founders tend really like the capacity or the ability to, or the position. They want to be in a position where they can they have authority, they can add to the product, they can bring in their own feedback. They have, they have the say, right? The ultimate say in the product, which is, I think, uh, often not understood by the business type co-founder, right? Or like the person that's trying to recruit them. Um, it's just, yeah, yeah. Um, and it's a mistake I see a lot of founders make. So, yeah, that tips around that. I'm happy to talk more about it, but I'm just trying to get to another one question. Feel free to throw a follow up if you have one. Okay. Konstantinos, I see you. Leo, I see. I was not ignoring you, man. Sorry. Konstantinos, would fundraising be affected by a company selling luxury products, i.e., expensive, high quality, less advertising? I don't think so. If your product premise is good, I mean, yeah, like if your product premise is good, I don't see why funding should be different. Again, you want to understand if you're a high scale tech startup, right? Or if you're a traditional e-commerce that just sells luxury products, because those are two different companies and they're not, one of them is venture backable, the other one maybe, but not necessarily, right? There should be some big scalability to it if you want to if you want to raise venture capital. Um, I see you founders at Mikafila. What approach of non-standard tech companies you explained? What's the approach of non-standard tech? Yeah, so for non-standard tech companies, say like you're building a biotech company or you're building a hardware product, right? It's understood that pre-seed funding is not going to be enough to get to 20K in revenue, right? There's a good chance that you'll need to invest, you'll need a pre-seed round to just file your first patents, and then you'll need a seed round. I mean, I guess what comes next to to engineer the product to build a first prototype that's not scalable, or just something that works. And you're gonna need a warehouse to build this, or a lab or whatever, and you're gonna need pretty smart people and a much bigger founding team, right? So that's another one. Like I mentioned these four skills to build the app, right? Somebody who can raise UX, somebody who can build a product, and engineer, and marketing. You can probably encompass that in two people. You don't need four people for this, right? You could have just two people that have all those four skills. But in hardware, it's a little different, right? Because you have people from the hardware side, from the product design side, from the software side, from the marketing side. You have people from the logistics and supply chain side. So founding teams for hardware companies and for biotech tend to be bigger. They tend to need more money because it's a bigger founding team. They tend to need a lot more time. So it's perfectly fine for an R&D type company to have to go through 3 or 4 rounds of funding before they can get a product to the market. And that's fine. That's fair. Right. So like the milestones are very different. I think there are milestones still. I mean, those vary a lot, but milestone could be patents filed and granted. A milestone could be MVP built, and then one round. What that after your MVP is built, what that next round does is it lets you solve the supply chain or manufacture your first batch of product and so on. So those milestones are different, but that's the thing, right? Milestones still exist. They're just different, and they vary a lot more between, say, hardware, biotech, etc. Okay, next one. I'll take Camila. So, is the idea of funding to think long term, to be bought out, so it's appealing to investors to get their money back, or not necessarily? Um, yes. I mean, to be bought out. Uh, Long term is a relative sentence. Um, I think for a founder, for a serial entrepreneur, if you will, if you want to fall into that cliche. I mean, it's a good cliche, but a serial entrepreneur, expects to build a company and get out by 10 years later. Um, right? You don't want to, so that's long term. 10 years is a long time for a founder. Because you want to be building other things. Um, so yeah, I'd say, yeah, that is long term. I don't think that you need to be thinking 30 years or 20 years if you're pitching to investors. Not at all. It's really, everybody understands, or investors in tech companies understand that the end goal is the exit, and that should happen sooner rather than later. Okay, Joseph, what are your thoughts about bootstrapping? Um, just joined. Okay, yeah, no, I didn't talk about bootstrapping. That's a good question. So, Bootstrapping is great. I have a good friend that started a company, um, and with I think it was a team of 4 people, and they all agreed, and they were all in a position to skip the pre-seed round. So they all got together and they agreed, hey, like we can work on this product, we can work on this company for 10 for I think it was like 18 months or something. It's like we all agree that we will work full time on this business for 18 months. And we won't raise money. And then they basically skip the pre-seed round. That's the definition of bootstrapping. You know, you could do a variation of that by keeping your day job or a part-time job or something like that if you don't have the means to, say, or the savings to work for 18 months. Um, and that's fair, right? And the advantage of that is that, well, you get to skip the pre-seed and you go to seed. Just when you do that, remember that that the money that you have needs to be enough to get to the next milestone, right? If you bootstrap your way to launching, but not to getting any revenue, you're back. You can rewind, Joseph. You're back to where we started, where we're stuck between pre-seed and seed, right? So bootstrapping to launch is a bad idea, bad idea. Because again, you're going to be a lot. You're going to have you will have invested a bunch of money in the company. You won't have any revenue to show for it. You have a product, yes, but you're in a bad position to raise money with investors, right? Because investors can just wait to see if the product succeeds or not. Um, so if you're bootstrapping, just make sure that you have enough oxygen to get to the funding milestone and not to get stuck in the middle. Good question. Okay, I think I ran out of questions on both sides. I know you guys on YouTube have like a little 10-second delay or something, but so I'll give you guys a chance. But otherwise, I think we can maybe start to call it a day. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Hope that this set of advice is useful to everyone. I'll please make sure to tune in to our session tomorrow. It's on our Startup Club channel. Link is there. For the live, you can tune in on YouTube or you can join our Zoom again. And again, I usually pick 1 or 2 of the companies in the audience to build a good financial model for you guys. So we'll get a lot geekier tomorrow with numbers and spreadsheets. I'll see you later. By the way, recording, I get that. Recording is always on YouTube. So on our main YouTube channel, which is called Slidebean, all our webinar live sessions live there.